Well, welcome back to the Sean Trey Show. I have a really awesome guest with me today. Now, would you like to tell people who you are and what you do?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Sean. My name is Bongani Morgan. I am a filmmaker, writer-director based in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Nice. Now, how did you get into filmmaking?
Sure. I'd like to think, filmmaking has been a lifelong endeavor, a lifelong dream of mine. So from an early age, I think since the age of 5, I've always sort of wanted to be a director after being sort of terrorized by seeing Judgment Day. I think this was in 1998, so that kind of reveals my age a bit. So I had nightmares, and then I come on.
The Terminator 2, right? Terminator 2 Judgment Day?
The opening scene, man.
Man.
It was just like human scars being crushed, flaring lights, and I was just like, and then, I watched the whole movie. I couldn't understand it then, but then, it did something to me. But to fast forward, I got the opportunity to go to film school after graduating from high school, where I really cut my teeth learning the craft, failing incredibly hard. I've made so many disasters in my entire film school. Filmography is only I think until graduation, where something was happening. But prior to it, was just bomb after bomb. Anyways. Getting to that, I got the opportunity through film school during holidays, sometimes sort of missing class, to sort of shadow, be a PA, be a camera assistant on set. And then along the way, meeting some producers who sort of paid off in the future. Just after graduating, by getting the opportunities in various forms, starting in promos, a bit of commercial work. Leading up to doing long form now. So that's how I got into it now, in a nutshell, I guess.
I want to come back onto the Judgment Day, because that movie is really haunting. People don't think about that. That movie is so well done. The first one was good, but I mean, Terminator 2 was epic. The Judgment Day was phenomenal. And after that, they've just haven't done so good with that franchise after.
I think Dark Fate came
that
far
movie
too late.
was haunting.
It came far too late. The latest one, Dark Fate, it was solid, but it was just far too late. Yeah, the audience.
And it was and I think one of the problems is after you make Judgment Day, it's really hard to go anywhere from that. Because that movie was so complete. Yeah. That movie was so well done. And it was really haunting. The idea of Skynet is terrifying.
Yeah.
That whole before we started the recording, we were having a conversation, quick conversation about the humanities and about how mankind is evolving, and we're you commented about how a good direction, and I was like, well, it depends on the algorithms. And Skynet is so similar to some of what we have now.
I worry because of Facebook.
What part of that movie was haunting for you?
Sorry. Before I answer that question, just to reiterate your point, Facebook being Meta, one whole thing controlling WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. And it's now got a different name. So exactly, Skynet's coming, What was haunting for me?
It's interesting too when just I want to come back to but when Facebook went down a couple weeks ago, and everything shut down. We were supposed. That was the night that I was. I think was that the night that I was supposed to talk to you. And then that my power. That's a different.
That was
night.
a different night. Yeah.
But that Facebook night, I had a bunch of people booked the day. There's a different night. The day Facebook went out, I had a bunch of podcasts booked, and I couldn't contact anyone because all of the methods that I had been using to contact people were all down. And I was like, this is terrifying that one company controls everything. Now, you were saying, forgive me.
No, that's fine. So you asked me what was haunting about T2. I think when I watched it properly, when I came of age, just the whole concept of recreating our own sort of doom. Because we evolved enough to understand the evolution of AI, putting so much of ourselves into this thing.
Right.
It became so much more than technology. Now it became part of the ether, sort of understanding the dynamics on a more god complex level to be like the biggest virus on earth is possibly humanity, so therefore unleash all hell on them. That's pretty crazy that your own offspring could be your own demise, which it's kind of like a nice foreboding tale, right? I don't know.
Right.
So like an Icarus tale.
Well, and we're right, and we're definitely clipping in the direction like Elon Musk will talk about that. Like he's like, AI is a little bit terrifying because either we merge with it or it will replace us.
For me, I mean,
and one of the things with AI that I don't think people go ahead.
No, sorry. Tell me.
Go ahead.
Because for me, what I wanted to say was before you go on.
No. Your turn.
It was like for me, I wasn't born in the '60s in the whole Cold War age, right? But like, it feels like this is a whole new version of like messing with something terrifying as nuclear physics. This AI business. It's like
no. But and I think the big thing too is who's writing the algorithms. AI could be this thing that serves humanity, that makes our world this beautiful place where people are able to focus on the arts and science and these higher endeavors. But yet, it's like who's writing the AI? Because like they've already shown that like AI has horrible biases, and AI based in China right now, they're using it like 1984. They're using AI to create this social justice system that's pretty much like Orwellian in style, and it's pretty hardcore like that. And then what if a society that was one of the things too that they've shown with AI is there's already a racial bias in AI. AI is programmed in a way that it's not making decisions that are equally. It's not representative of the reality. AI has these biases that are coming from the bias of the creators, which is not good. Not good at all.
Sort of like a modern version of eugenics. It's pretty scary if you think about it. Like who determines who's worthy of yada yada based on like AI algorithms,
right? Well, and so how did this then, something like this, directed you towards filmmaking? Now that to me is interesting. Now you see this movie and you're like, I need to get into film. Now was this because you're like, I gotta be John Connor and save the world, with movies? I gotta kind of put good content out. What was your motivation there?
I don't know. I was just enamored by the whole idea that somebody was responsible for making me feel this experience, through like, I don't know, it was audiovisual at the time or motion picture, but it was like this thing, I knew of movies, but I didn't know like a movie so specific. I mean, I watched Lion King, which was pretty amazing at the time and all that, but the connection I made with T2 was just like, whoa, haunting, but I was also awed by it. Like, how do you make something like this? And then later on reading great novels where it sort of moved me in that way. I was like, this is how great art could sort of be, and maybe this is the way I could express myself in the future, because I used to write a lot, and then I sort of fell in love with filmmaking, I think, in my high school career, sort of like working out and seeing and like understanding maybe I could have a crack at this by like stealing the school camera, like shooting some short films with my friends, until they allowed me to do it. And then, it was pretty cool. So like, I think from there.
That's awesome. And it's powerful because you hit on something that I really love. Like, film is powerful because to me, it's almost like, when I sit in the theater with a bunch of other people, it's almost like we're on some type of guided meditation. It's like not like we're just in this space where we are, experiencing this alone. We are all, like, so let's go to the movie, something like, what was it? Avatar. Yeah. James Cameron's Avatar. When that movie was playing, I was in that world. You know, and not just me, we were as a group there, you know, all these people looking at this possible reality, you know, experiencing these questions, looking at this story
Yeah.
that was, you know, profound. And it was a profound reimagining of like what had already happened.
Yeah.
This was the, like, I still don't understand how some people in America don't know that the movie Avatar was essentially the story of the American West. Like, it was the story of the colonial expansion. Yeah. Except what if the Native Americans won? Like, that's what the movie Avatar was all about. What if the Native Americans had have won?
Yeah. What would that?
And it was a
like?
very profound way of looking at that concept.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about them sort of pushing 4 more films out of that, but yeah. But yeah, the first one is great. Very, very, very profound film as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the next, what is it, like 6 of them? I don't know.
Something like that, man.
There's a bunch of them,
Too
right?
much.
Now, what type of stories inspire you?
Sure. Growing up, I used to think I wanted to be like Michael Bay, man. Like, make the coolest action films, you know, because I like growing up on Bad Boys, Armageddon, The Rock. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, that looked cool. I mean, he still inspires me to a great deal even now.
Hell yeah.
It's just about human interest, you know, like the complexities behind human motivations, you know. So more so in the dramatic form, you know, like just, and the drama can lead you to all sort of exciting possibilities within genres, you know. So like at the foundation of a good story is like the core conflict, inner conflict and external conflict between the person within themselves and whatever position if it comes. So it's pretty cool. That's what I'm drawn into, I guess, you know.
And you make it's an interesting point, because even with Michael Bay movies, there is, you know, I think The Rock is one of the best screenplays I've read, man. It's just such a great movie, you know, because you have so many like components that are there. You know, granted, Nicolas Cage's acting is Nicolas Cage's acting. He's with Nick Cage, you either get Oscar winner or you get, you know, something else that he just does. He's never in the middle. He's never in the middle. You know, you get Con Air or Oscar winner, and I loved Con Air.
Awesome.
I mean, it was Nick Cage being Nick Cage.
That's like,
you know? But The Rock was it was awesome. Now, what are some of the things that you've been working on lately? What are some of the projects that you've been working on lately?
So I'm just wrapping up a TV show called The Bright Show with Casper Gavest, or The Bright Show with Cass. That's been running for about 10 weeks now on South Africa's biggest national broadcaster, SABC1. So that's been pretty cool. We are pretty much wrapping up the post-production phase this coming week. So I'm excited to put that behind me. And then there's an upcoming documentary feature that I'm busy putting together, finishing up really. That's coming up. It's my third effort in the docu feature world, so I'm excited to see what people can take from what I've matured from, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what's left of 2021/early 2022. Yeah, man.
That's awesome. Now, what are some of the documentary topics that you've made already, and what are, because documentary is like, you know, people can go a couple different directions with documentary, but often they're like either social justice or they're stories that are important to you. What are some of the documentary topics that you like to look at or have looked at?
Again, like human interest, and I've been, I think, lucky enough, maybe like sort of wishful thinking. My first docu-feature is about a social justice advocate who sort of was fighting through apartheid in his entire lifetime. You know, from the early ages in the Eastern Cape, when the Eastern Cape was sort of segregated from South Africa, it was called the Transkei region, to a point where throughout democracy, even to like when he took chairmanship for a large corporation in South Africa. And then the second docu-feature was about South Africa's first rugby player to score a try in a World Cup final, Makazole Mapimpi. So again, it was a story about a man who sort of selfless in his endeavor and his pursuit of what he felt was the right way to be in the world, pursuing his dream of being a Springbok. And he got there through unconventional means, and he became this legendary player, and he still is. He's still breaking records now. And then the third one sort of reinforces that whole sports culture way. It's about rural sports and development, and about the unsung heroes coming from these really forgotten villages. So yeah, so that's sort of like the subject matter that I'm seeing that's consistent in my documentary work. It's like human interest, but uplifting, empowering human individuals who are doing like crazy shit, and actually like rising above means. And awesome. What's cool about it is that they're still alive, so they're living legends really, and it's so nice to sort of celebrate them as they are around still,
Exactly, those stories have to be told, because like there was this story, I believe that with this, I'm gonna have to look this up afterwards, but it was a story, I believe, that the gentleman was in India, and his wife had a medical emergency, and the mountain pass that they had to walk through was so difficult to navigate, and the hike to the main city took a long time, and his wife ended up passing away because they weren't able to get her there in time. And so the man, over I think 30 or 40 years, single-handedly carved a new trail through the mountain. He went up there, and like that was what he did. He literally chiseled his way through the mountain, and it was like he created the new road so that they didn't have to take this crazy hike. Wow. And this is a true story. This guy actually did this. And then there's this other guy in India. I'll send that to you, that story. Yeah. There's another guy in India who planted an entire forest. Like, it was over like 40 years, and every day he would get one seedling and take them out, and or more. And like, he took this place that had just been deforested and was like a sandbar, and he turned it into this ecological reserve, because they said that he planted himself. He planted millions of trees. Like, that's nuts.
Those are the living legends of the world, we never celebrate those guys enough. And they do so much more, that's right. Crazy humanitarian work, so much like to appreciate with human beings like that.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest lies that people are taught growing up is that you can't change the world. That your own, the world is a big place. You can try, but you can't change the system. Yeah. And I think that people are they're told that because I don't know whether people don't want them to try to change things, or they just don't want them to rock the boat. But I love these stories of people that have been, in their own way, able to shift our culture, our societies. That's amazing to me.
100%. I don't know if you've seen a film called Paid Forward. Old school classic.
I haven't yet. I've heard the name. I haven't seen it, but I've heard the name. It speaks
exactly what we're talking about. Like, and for me, maybe I'm going to segue into a bit of a different topic here. Teachers are so fundamental in shaping.
Please do.
Like the next wave of leaders, the next generation. And Paid Forward really cements that ideal, because it's about a teacher sort of, empowering students to really come up with ideas to change the world. And it inspires this one kid who comes up with this crazy concept of paying it forward. And it just becomes a movement, and then, But the rest I want you to check out for yourself if you can, So exactly. So like the power of like, changing the world individually, it's very possible. And maybe, the cynicism in the world where people get beat out so much that they become sort of like resentful, bitter, that it's like, I couldn't do it, so I don't think anyone else can, so it's like, it's growing pains in a way, it's crazy. Just also like life is a bit tough for everybody.
It is, but yet at the same time, we can share our experience and begin to understand other people. There was an actual South African movie that I remember years ago that was a real eye-opening experience for me, what was it called? It did really well in the Oscars. Was it called Sotsi?
Oh yeah.
It was
What was the plot?
I can't. Do you? The plot is that this young boy. Oh man, I'm blanking on it right
easy.
now.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
it was a kind of the clash between different worlds.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was Tsotsi. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but it's like the boy, and he steals a car and he finds a
It's
baby
Sotsi.
in the back
That's the one.
seats.
Fantastic. Film.
And like it's like, but again, it's one of the beautiful things I find about film is that we, like I'm in Vietnam, right? And in Vietnam, we have a different set of issues that people have in other countries. One of the things here is that we get monsoon rain, right? So just a simple example. And when it rains hard, the water systems can't handle everything. So it floods. Like majorly floods, so yesterday in front of my house, there was a meter of water on the street. 1 meter. Water, it was 1 meter because it was a high tide. We're so close to the ocean, so it was high tide. And half of the city was flooded.
How
like
high
that,
is your house?
Right? The houses here are extremely tall.
Okay, cool. Makes sense.
The houses are extremely tall. So like Vietnamese houses, because land is so expensive, the houses are narrow and very tall.
Oh, wow.
And so it's completely different. When I first moved here, I was like, why are the houses so skinny, but they go straight up, right?
That's super cool.
And one of the things that you look at that, because the different, but like around the world, we don't understand that, like why are all the houses so low? You go to Los Angeles, you go to the city of Los Angeles, and everyone's like, oh, everything's low.
Yeah.
All the houses are low. It's like nothing is over 2 stories except for in downtown. Why? Because there's earthquakes. You make tall buildings and it's just not a stable ground. And like different places have different things. And what I love about movies is that we are able to glimpse into someone else's world, a world that we might not understand.
100%.
And I'm loving the fact that international cinema is on the rise. Like look at the movie Parasite from Korea.
Yeah. Flippin' awesome, eh?
Let's imagine that I have Aladdin's lamp. Okay, Genie pops out again. Robin Williams Genie. I like the Robin Williams version. He was funny. Now Will Smith did it great though too. Now let's look at this. You can make any movie you want. You can make a story about any topic you want. What type of issues or concepts would you make a movie about?
Yeah. It would be about the complexity of what it means to be a South African influenced by multiracial demographics in every form of shape. So like, if it's not even about like contrasting 2 worlds, about the mechanisms of all these worlds that you're exposed to. And for me, the challenge to myself is to, how do I make that universal to sort of my peers of every race, creed, tribe, whatever in South Africa, and hopefully that transcends and inspires or resonates within the greater audience at large. So that'd be the type of story where it would be, to put it into simpler terms, something as simple in sort of the storytelling as perhaps, look, I think now of a great epic that's like Gran Torino. I love Gran Torino. In terms of just the social dynamics of putting this this unlikely person in this sort of environment where it really now challenges every sort of fiber of every belief they have, and it's like constantly in their face. So something like that.
And one of the things I love about Gran Torino is like the character is so flawed. Like Clint Eastwood's character in Gran
Deeply.
Torino is so flawed.
Deeply.
He's
almost despicable.
racist.
Yeah,
He's an asshole. He's a bad guy. But it's about the character's choices. And the character, even this awful character, can make the right choices. Because that's what it's about. It's not about being this angel, because none of us
100%.
are. But can you make the right choices?
Exactly. Like Scorsese says, he says he's not interested in heroes. He's interested in villains because they're flawed, and he wants to explore and sort of see their way to either redemption or damnation, maybe, you know. It was pretty cool, that notion of like understanding
Exactly.
the human psyche, or trying to, at least, you know.
I think that with villains, the great villains are much more relatable than any of the superheroes.
Who's your favorite? Who would you consider like maybe top 3 greatest? If that's a toughie, if I can point out one.
No, I'm gonna gravitate towards just let's pick. I'm gonna start off in the Marvel universe because that's a really easy one to reference. Hands down, the best villain in the Marvel universe was what's his name? I am absolutely blanking right now on the character's name, but the villain in Black Panther.
Killmonger.
Best villain. What's that character's name? Killmonger. Killmonger. Hands down the best character. And the reason the character was the best is because of one thing.
Okay.
Killmonger was right.
Yeah.
He was justified. Yeah. And it was like, he was justified. And that was what the ending of that first Black Panther was all about, was like, you know, T'Challa understands that like Killmonger was right all along, albeit his tactics were wrong. His methods were wrong, but he was right.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, if a hero who has all of the power in the world, who has all this technology, is not willing to step up and help people, then maybe the villain has to do it. And that's what I loved about Killmonger, because he was justified. Everything he was doing was justified.
Such powerful themes, right? And that's really what I think resonated with, because there's so much backlash with Black Panther, sort of. And for me, I was also like, why is it nominated for Best Picture? Come on, The Dark Knight should have been there, yada yada. But I watched it again and I really understood so many factors, but that's one of the key themes, you know, because it's so profound, that film, actually. Flipping great, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who's one of your favorite villains?
Sure. Man, I'm trying to think properly. Joker, because just his basic function was to really challenge.
Hang on, which Joker?
Chris Nolan's Joker.
Which?
Heath Ledger's Joker.
Okay.
Just purely because, like, I'm a fan of like high concept sort of work, you know. So it's like, and that's why I'm a great fan of Chris Nolan's too, because he understands how to immerse a concept in every form in the tools of filmmaking. So when he used Joker as an archetype of really being the immovable object of the Batman's unstoppable force, it really was about that. Like, he challenged Batman to a notion where Batman was even questioning his methods of like, does me existing here create characters like Joker? So that means I might have to actually abandon this idea of being a vigilante, this idea of waiting out vengeful justice, because it's creating darker manifestations of maybe my version, you know. So I love that idea of just a complete yin to your yang.
Joker and Batman are two sides of the same coin, which was where, you know, the interesting thing with Harvey Dent, because both of them are chaos. Both Batman and Joker are chaos. It's like that pie chart. You have good chaos and evil chaos, and yet they were both chaos. You know, like let's be real. Batman Batman's a single, a single person wrecking machine. That's literally, they don't show it all the time, but Batman was totally killing
Yeah,
people.
100%.
This is not Superman.
100%.
Batman was straight up executing people, and he was like, though there was a code, a creed that he followed, versus Joker. It was indiscriminate.
Yeah, exactly.
You die? You don't?
Exactly. He even says like, no one bats an eyelid. Like if, how does he say it again? One bats an eyelid if someone sort of like dies out on the street, but a bunch of kids kidnapped or bombed, everybody suddenly cares. It's like crazy, And he burns like a whole stash of money just to prove a point. Like exactly, you don't need this crap, He's crazy. But he's also, in some ways, he opens up so many powerful, crazy notions about the expression of your true self. What does that mean in a world trying to sort of accept everybody's nuance, preference, dynamics? How would that look like where we could truly express ourselves in every form? Fascinating.
And I think it's super fascinating, and I think that the idea of the Batman trilogy worked because there were such phenomenal villains. I mean, and Bane was another. Bane was another phenomenal villain, played by Tom Hardy, who was an absolutely amazing actor.
Yeah.
And so
exactly.
And Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul.
I think he's in the top 2 for me. Like he was incredible as a villain, like. Jeez, yeah, powerhouse. His motivations are properly justified. He's a bit misguided. He's actually a lot misguided. But like, in principle, his idea of justice is kind of almost practical in terms of if we become indiscriminate. But of course, as human beings, we can never be truly indiscriminate, can we? So that's where he sort of falters, and
and that's one of the challenges, though, is because, and see, this is where one of the things that's really special about all those characters is that, and what the interesting thing about the Batman universe is because, as well, Superman is obviously like the good guy, and a lot of these other characters, Captain America, these were good guys. They were clear cut, you know what I mean? But like, Gotham was a messed up place, and Batman was doing what he did because Gotham was a messed up place, and Ra's al Ghul recognized as Gotham was a messed up place, and like they were all trying to approach it in the same way, and Joker as well. All these people were like, because Gotham got that way because the people at the top were making Gotham bad. It didn't come from the bottom, and so. It was such an interesting analogy, and like Batman was simply another one of these people trying to fix a problem.
Yeah, it's like in the Marvel universe where Captain America sort of says he didn't want to sacrifice Vision and sort of like maybe destroying that Mind Stone because we don't trade lies, but at the cost of like half of existence. Because ultimately he failed, So it's like, at what cost are you willing to sort of protect this notion, this ideal of yours? At what cost? Because it cost Batman probably a prospect of a normal life with what's his love interest's name again? I forget. When Joker killed her off, because at what cost are you willing to protect Gotham?
What was that?
In the Dark Knight, where Batman literally sacrificed this idea of a prospective normal life with Rachel because he was just like, I gotta protect Gotham, it's my duty. And then Joker was like, well, at what cost, brother? You know what I mean? So it's those concepts like, at what cost are you willing to protect this idea in the greater scheme of life? It's crazy.
And I think another great movie with an awesome villain. I'm sure you're gonna agree with this one, is No Country for
Old Men. Man. What?
Such a
monster.
Such
monster. Hey?
Yeah, but like, and that was one of the things that like a perfectly enlightened monster there's a scene, like I came up as an actor, and
Okay.
there's a scene in acting class that we would it's the scene where he flips the coin for the old man's life, and the old man is just like, well, I'm just here, my son, and the guy's like, and he's putting the coin away. He's like, no, you can't put that coin away. You have to save it. It's the most important coin. And it's like, he's almost like this evil Zen monk, that's out there killing people and giving wisdom and knowledge.
That's crazy,
but like,
right?
such an amazing character, and without that character, it doesn't work. The whole film doesn't work without this horrible killer.
Exactly. And for me, it's like he drives also the unconvention of the structure of the movie. Like, it's just so crazy how it's almost like I'm willing to believe Infinity War sort of referenced No Country, because at the end of the day, it was about Sugar's movie and his motives, and he does succeed. And so does Thanos in Infinity War. It's like,
yes, it was.
You know what I mean?
Movie.
It's like these guys, as warped as their sense of wisdom is, they are mostly right, because that's what the filmmakers are suggesting. Like, yeah, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Shit, it's crazy, right? But yeah, those are like proper.
Right. Have you seen the movie Old Henry yet?
Mm-mm. I haven't seen Old Henry.
It's so good. It's the best Western I've seen in ages.
Awesome.
It's
Awesome.
so
I'm
good.
sold. Huge fan of Westerns.
Once you see it, you got to message me once you finish it. You got to message me, 'cause we'll dive in on that one, man. But again, like I'm writing a screenplay right now that is kind of a cross between Logan and No Country for Old Men. I'm not putting myself in either of those categories, but kind of thematically, it's similar. And just describing what we did now, I was like, man, I need to make a better villain. I need to have a better villain. Gotta have some better.
I mean,
villains.
those are great reference points.
Have you ever seen the movie Hell or High Water?
Loved Hell or High Water.
Yeah, right.
Loved Hell or High Water. Loved it.
One of the things that's special about Hell or High Water is that I would argue that there's no real villain.
Exactly.
Because there's not a villain in that movie. The bad guys are the heroes, and the good guys are the bad guys, and the only real bad guy would be kind of the institution.
It's man versus the system. Exactly. For me, one thing I loved about it, and I think it's Taylor Sheridan's writing. His writing translates beautifully the themes, because like those themes, when I sort of like got the Hell or High Water script, I'm like, let me check it out. I actually read the screenplay before I watched the movie. It was just, I got on one of those sites where it was like an Oscar contender. So I was like, oh shit, let me actually get this thing and watch the movie.
Right.
And then I was like, and I want to see how this thing was put together. And I was like, wow, yeah. Flipping cool. Yeah, so strong writing. You can't mess up strong writing as a director,
Yeah. It's so masterfully crafted, right? Yeah. And I think that's the thing that when you get great writing like that, it just flows,
Exactly.
Now, if you could put together some advice, if you could go back in time and give advice to your younger self, what type of advice would you give yourself?
That's a good one. Just trust the process, man. If I could go back in time and talk to the 12-year-old version of myself when this dream was sort of really manifesting, like the idea of being a writer at first, and then maybe about 5 years down the line, the idea of possibly being a director. Just trust the process, trust the dreams, and let them hopefully nurture you to the right connections, the right people, because without that fundamental belief, this faith, this really idea and belief of, I really want to achieve this. I have no know-how, but I believe so much so that in little by little steps, I'll find little endeavors that will sort of open up the channels. And bit by bit, and I'm sitting here now trying to sort of comprehend the last 10 years of my journey. And that's the true advice I give to myself. Believe in your hustle, trust the process in which you truly believe, and that will guide you to purpose.
Believe in the hustle, man. Believe in your hustle. I love that. I saw this one great quote that was like, pray like it's up to God. Work like it's all up to you. And, you know, and to me, like, I try to like put it out there and hope that it's going to fall into place. And, you know, there's always these great little things that have fallen in place in my life. But there's also been a whole bunch of blood, sweat, and tears. You know what I mean? Like, and but you got to be smart about it too. You gotta learn the system that works for you. You know, you got to be smart about it and pick stories that you have passion for, because you're going to be sitting with them for a while.
That's one thing I've learned, is that you have to believe in that passion in that story, but it's also, you learn to find your way through mistakes. Unfortunately, it's so easy to say that, but it's like when you are in the crux of the shit, it's like, I'm messing up tremendously, but you go through a process and you're like, I needed to learn that because now I'm much better in my craft as a human being. So yeah, and picking stories that you believe in, because I've made the mistakes of doing projects that have lasted long, where I really it put the truth in my face that, you know, you've done this for the wrong reasons, and no matter how much sort of reward in every sense you're gonna benefit, it's not true to what you aspire to be. And it's true, and you get miserable. So it's like, as hard as the passion projects are to put off and pull off, it's like the process of making it with really dope artists makes it so much worse, because you're making art and hopefully makes you money, pays a bit of the bills. You know, the rest, you know, is really just bonuses, I guess. So yeah, that's ideally how it should be for artists. You know, like, these economic means shouldn't deter us from dreaming and doing our things, but unfortunately it's not how the world works, you know. So you have to hustle a bit deeper than most professions, maybe, you know.
Yeah, but you know, and I think that's part of the idea of the stories we tell, though, is that I think the fundamental principle of good filmmaking is that your characters, whether they be a villain or a hero, are faced with a certain number of obstacles that prevent them from achieving their goals. But those obstacles are what makes the story special. Like, the fact that your character has to fight a dragon to rescue a kingdom makes the rescuing that much more important, 100%. You know, and valued.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a thing I call unity of principle, and I've been taught by a lot of my great mentors, right? Where what you're saying is true, is that the rules that you establish within the world of your story, no matter the genre, you know, and that's the style of great storytelling, is that it doesn't matter the genre or the approach. If you can sort of establish those rules and maintain them, and if you really master those dynamics, warp them, like some great films have, like No Country for Old Men, you know, it's like, then you like at the hands of great art, you know. So it's true, it's like one of those stories where you can really appreciate and learn a lot more deeper than that.
And that film, that story concept is so simple. Josh Brolin's character stumbles upon money, and let's be real. If that was me and I stumble upon $1 million out in the middle of the desert, I'm gonna be very tempted to take it. Like, very, very, very tempted to take it. But what is, you know, but God, man, you know, you then would stumble into this world of being hunted and killed. Like, you never know that, because, you know, you feel like there's enough of a motivator that you could get out, that you can escape from your troubles, not realizing that you're stepping into the fire.
Yeah.
You know. Did you ever read much Joseph Campbell or study much
Yes, Joseph Campbell.
Go ahead.
At film school, in screenwriting class, he was very much at the core of us being screenwriters in the future as we graduated. Yeah, Man with a Thousand Faces, The Hero's Journey, incredible stuff. You know, I think it's at the
so powerful, and I think that you have to step out and journey into the unknown. You have to journey into that world that your character's afraid of, and you know, and if it was simple, it would never work out. But we have to journey into that world that is the unknown. Now, if you could craft the perfect villain, your perfect villain, what would they? Tell me some about that character. What would that character look like?
Sure.
And would your villain be an anti-hero? You know, I mean, are you going to be tempted to make that character into the hero as well?
It's funny you should think, because I don't want to give too much away, but I'm sort of working on a feature screenplay, and I'm toying with
Awesome.
I'm grappling with that idea of the nature of my villain, because he's not so much an anti-hero, but he's compelled to become one, and then it becomes a crazy thing of who's the true villain now, because I'm just playing with these concepts so it's another one of those. So definitely play within that realm of a very flawed human being who's very nearly despicable, but there are some things that happen to them through the protagonist that challenge that notion that they've always been believing, because him and the protagonist are the same. You know, they fundamentally after the same goal, but it's like they so polarized, but it's so complex because the shades of gray patches of their methodology on each other's sides. So when they and I'm working towards that climax now, like, or who then it's like the theme now, then what becomes, yeah.
It's powerful, and I think that's one of the concepts that Star Wars plays so well with, the idea that a character could be a villain or a hero.
Yeah.
You know, because they dive into that. You know, it's simply about, you know, do you choose the light side or the dark?
Right.
And the dark is so much more interesting in the Star Wars universe.
One of my favorite quotes ever is by Pythagoras.
That's
when he says, the most momentous thing in human life is the art of winning the soul to good or to evil. And I think for me, that at the crux of it, maybe that's what drives when I get into narrative filmmaking and long format, that is going to be that notion of exactly what he's trying to say, you know, that art of balancing yourself to the good, the light or the dark. Yeah, exactly. So I love that you reference Star Wars within that regard. It's powerful, very much true, you know, about our nature as human beings, maybe.